Welcome to the StockOptionAssassin.com's weekly video for swing trading options. Today is Friday, September 21st, 2012. We are a couple minutes before 4 o'clock today doing this video. I'm going to make this short this week, but I want to point out some important kind of correlations that I'm seeing and actually kind of make the case for a potential bull side move next week. So let's look at that now. I got the SPX cash settled index up here, and again, we're a couple minutes before the close, but we're about to close here. And if you just look at the spiders itself, or the SPX, you can see we had this big move. This candle on the 6th, this was the announcement of the unlimited bond buying by the ECB. We then kind of bull flagged into the Fed, who also announced some unlimited QE for extended period of time. That sent us, into this candle, which was that Friday. And then this week, we basically kind of digested that information, had a little bit of a dip yesterday, but this dip was bought. And this is what's very, leaning me on the bull side, and I've been one, believe me, I've got stopped out of some shorts here in the past few weeks. But, you got to play price. And right now, price just, these are bullish patterns. And something I sent out earlier this week is, the market typically doesn't give you a whole lot of time to get out of the market. When the market sells off, it's usually fast and furious. And right now, the market is not selling off. The one little dip we had brought us into that 1450 area on the SPX, and it was bought up yesterday. And today we tried to, get a little bit going here, but then we're basically closing relatively flat, slightly down on the day. So when you look at the weekly chart over here on the left, this is the daily on the right and the weekly on the left, you can see we had this nice big uptrend for 2 weeks in a row. We had a few weeks here, pull back, had this big move up, and basically we're consolidating near the highs of the last 2 weeks. So this is also a bullish kind of pause week, spinning top if you want to call it. We do have this bottoming tail telling you that buyers did come in. That was from this day right here. But I just want to note that, we're kind of still in a bullish mode, some consolidation here. Regardless of what earnings and economic reports are out, this thing is not selling off yet. And until we, significantly break down, and right now you're going to have serious support. Well, one at 1450, which was already bought. But if we do sell off, you have this little consolidation level, which is about what's called 1440. And then ultimately you have more, around the 1410 area. So as of right now, I'm expecting a little bit of a pop into next week, and to kind of promote that theory, I want to look at a couple other charts. First of all, I want to look at the dollar. Now, for those that aren't used to the currencies and stuff, I basically there's a basic correlation that if the dollar goes lower, stocks, commodities will go higher. This isn't always a one-to-one relationship, but that's what happened. You can see, the market's been, the dollar market has, and I'm using the UUP here, it's been pricing in that QE for the past, month or so. And for the last couple months, this thing finally sold off. Seems to have found a little bit of a bottom here, but you can see we did take out some serious support levels around this 2176. So basically, what I'm seeing is that the last, 5 or 6 days, the dollar found a bottom here, temporarily. And the last few days, the dollar's actually rallied. And typically when you would see a dollar rally, you would see things like gold, silver, the spiders, kind of pull back, sort of correlated with that. And again, when you look at the spiders, or the SPX, we were looking at the SPX, but even the spiders, you got a little bit of a pullback, but nothing near the relationship to what the dollar did. The dollar actually pulled back up in there. The SPX is basically flat here. And if you look at things like gold is trading sideways. Actually tried to make a little pop today, but sold right back off into the range. So gold's trading sideways. Silver is trading sideways. And so what that's telling me is that people are not, they're basically not getting out of this stuff. The dollar rallied. Gold's trading sideways, a little choppy here, but this is still kind of a bullish pattern setting up for potential higher prices. What I will say, actually this is silver, but I will say about silver, this is kind of a high wave doji. So there is a potential for, when you have a high wave, and what I mean by high wave, if you have a tall upper shadow and a long lower shadow, and you're relatively flat on the close, which is basically what happened this week. This means that there's bears and bulls, and this is a serious battle. We're at a serious battle right here, and this is definitely looking like that on the silver. If we look at gold, kind of similar pattern here. Um, bears stepped in up here around 173. The bulls kind of came back in and basically traded flat for the week. But again, if the dollar is making a little bit of a rally, and maybe this is just an oversold bounce, and that's kind of how I'm seeing this. It's an oversold bounce. If this thing starts to continue to the downside, you're going to see upside in the market, as well as gold and silver. The one last chart we'll kind of look at today is TLT, which is also kind of somewhat inversely correlated to the market. And TLT also got a pretty significant bounce this week. Now, granted, it was oversold, got a pretty significant bounce this week. But again, the market is trading sideways. So the safe haven asset, there's some money going in here, but is this? I guess the question is this an oversold bounce as the market sets up for the next move, or is this a reversal and now the market's setting up to go lower? So I'm not seeing the market setting up to go lower at this point. Now, we all know that anything can come out news-wise and send this thing down, but you have to give the market the benefit of the doubt that we have some potential upside in the next week. What I would really like to see next week to kind of confirm that bullish theory is for us to get above this previous high, which on the S&P is basically 1475. If we can get a decent close and a confirmation above that, then we're kind of off to the races here, I think, at least for the next leg up. And when you look at the dollar, we'll go back to UUP. If you look at the dollar, if this thing kind of breaks down, there's really no major support yet. We already tagged this level at 2150 area. But really, if that's taken out, you're really looking at this double bottom around 2118. That's a pretty big move for the dollar. And that, you probably have a little support here, but ultimately you're probably looking at this gap fill from October last year around 2115 on the UUP. And for TLT, if these lows are taken out, you could go all the way back down here. Now, I think the TLT, the downside, may be slightly limited. I don't think, a ton of new money is going to come into the market at this point. It's always possible, but I think the TLT downside maybe muted a little bit. Maybe you get down to, this area, 113, you got a little gap fill here and find support. But again, I think we're at a critical point. This is obviously kind of a bear flag setting up on the inverses. You have a bear flag here on TLT and the dollar, this little bear flag. And then on the indexes, you basically have bull flags let's look at the diamonds here. This is the Dow trading sideways. Looks pretty much like the gold chart trading sideways after a big move. So again, I got a slight bullish short-term bias here, and that's what we'll be looking at into next week. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next week.